Celebrated film director and writer Shyam Benegal is a man who has wrestled with complex historical and social issues with a deft ease. But even a man of his vast experience felt he was wading in deep waters when he wanted to tell the story of India's birth, the crucial moments when Constitution was written.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge.
It was felt that it probably would be a good idea to have a series on the making of the Indian Constitution, the story behind how the democratic Constitution of India was created, with all the people who are involved in the creation of that, whether it would make an interesting television subject. Of course, I jumped at it because I said it would probably make an exciting program.
He wanted to explore the personality and the psyche of the man who almost single-handedly shaped the document that today dictates each citizen's life in India. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, or Baba Saheb Ambedkar, as he is popularly called now, was a towering personality who steered the Constituent Assembly that wrote the central law book of India and left a huge footprint on India as a nation. The story of India's Constitution is in many ways a reflection of Ambedkar's experiences, his life and his beliefs. When offered, Shyam Benegal accepted this challenging assignment with his customary zeal to tell the untold stories behind the epic historical events.
This assembly resolves, Honorable Dr. B.R. Ambedkar be appointed to scrutinize the draft of the text of the Constitution. Those for the motion say aye. Aye. The motion is adopted.
When a group of interpret reformers began fighting the British colonizers and trying to wrest India free from a coercive foreign rule of more than 100 years, there was one man who did something even more revolutionary. He was working to dismantle an even more despondent slavery, the caste system of India. If trying to eject the British was a courageous task that only a brave heart could undertake, fighting the caste system was akin to finding a pervasive ghost. Only a maverick would do that. The founding fathers of the first Indian government picked just this eclectic figure to take up the task of writing the Constitution of India. Ambedkar was the man Mahatma Gandhi chose as the best fit for this job.
People who would have otherwise been antagonists came together. Not only did they come together, but to suggest that Ambedkar should write the Constitution. And this was in fact that suggestion made by Mahatma Gandhi.
असली इम्तिहान तो अब आएगा जवाहर, जब हमें अपनी सरकार बनानी और चलानी पड़ेगी।
हम तैयार हैं बापू। जगजीवन राम जी का भी नाम हमारे फहरिस्त में है।
और अंबेडकर, वो मेरा पुराना विरोधी है, पर ये बात भी सच है कि संविधान और कानून के बारे में जितना वो जानता है, शायद कोई जानता हो पूरे देश में। और अगर आपने अंबेडकर के ज्ञान और अनुभव का फायदा नहीं उठाया, तो नुकसान उसका नहीं, हिंदुस्तान का होगा।
It also shows how Gandhi thought. Because he said none of the other people would have the vision and the farsightedness of a person like Ambedkar.
Ambedkar was a multi-layered personality, an active social reformer, a practicing lawyer, a grassroots politician, and a thought leader. But this did not make the battle of consensus and lawmaking any easier for him. The series scriptwriter Shama Zaidi dived into historical documents and extensive cache of contemporaneous records to capture the inch-by-inch fight by Ambedkar to shape a visionary and a reformist constitution that India has today.
We went through all the transcripts of many volumes. Then we went through the committee meetings. And then we got some stuff on Ambedkar, which was not there, about his attitude and so on, which we got on various sites, and we talked to people. So Ambedkar had been to an American university, so his ideas were much more modern than, and only now you realize, he was ahead of his time, and now people are appreciating what he was trying to say then.
Also, he was not that much influenced by the British academic systems. Now, the fact was, Ambedkar went to Columbia University, don't forget. He was not part of the Oxford-Cambridge group at all. But here was Ambedkar, who in fact studied in America, which has very strong democratic foundations because it was the first democratic country of the world. So that had a great deal of influence on him. He was absolutely the right choice that Gandhi had made that gave the responsibility of creating the Indian Constitution to Ambedkar.
Portraying a real person, that too a well-recognized figure for whom their strong public opinions is a tough task for any actor. Sachin Khedekar, a mainstream artist from Hindi film industry in Mumbai, felt the challenge from the onset.
As actor, it was a huge responsibility. I had that pressure of being at my best.
Mr. President, sir, I am surprised at this statement of Mr. Tyagi. Rights of minorities should be absolute rights. I think we ought to do what is right in our own judgment. And personally, I think that the rights which are indicated are rights which every minority, irrespective of any other consideration, is entitled to claim.
It was a project which was very challenging because there were over 152 characters, and there were core characters, secondary characters, and of course lots of extras. And the core characters, one of them being Ambedkar. The research that one did for him was through footage as well as photographs. When it came to the costumes for Ambedkar, one could see what costumes he was wearing when. One could see that he went out of his way to dress very formally. He wore lots of suits when he went out in a formal space.
Mr. President, sir, coming as I do from a community that has produced Dr. Ambedkar, I feel proud that his capacity has been recognized now, not only by the Harijans, but by all communities that inhabit India. At one time, dogs and swine might enter the sacred precincts of temples, but the shadow of an untouchable was considered a great abomination. I feel proud, sir, that by the Article 29, that slur has been removed away.
I had worked with Mr. Benegal, so I knew his style, quest for authenticity, and his own approach to this entire document and the making of the Constitution.
I'm quite convinced that given time and circumstances, nothing in the world will prevent this country from becoming one.
Our Constitution has a wonderful preamble. The way it itself, the way it starts, saying that we are one. All of us, this great diversity of this country. Now, this is something that is so beautifully drafted.
We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political.
The set was probably as authentic. The 300 members when we are speaking there, and it's about 10-minute odd speech. And when he says humbly that this is our document we are presenting to ourselves, it's a great moment of pride for him and the entire nation. And he acknowledges each and every member in that speech, which is big. So all that, wishing everybody, wishing the entire nation, wishing everybody who contributed, and his entire happiness or a sense of fulfillment comes into that speech. And I really think that is by far my good performances, let's not say. But I am really overwhelmed. It gives me goosebumps every time I see those scenes.
Equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation.
Since he was the editor or the main person who put the Constitution together, he was the chairman of the committee, he had to make the concluding remarks. And what he said is still true. I think that's a classic speech.
In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution.
To give voice to the voiceless is an aspect of genuine democracy. And that was something he was very aware of. The whole idea was that everybody has equal rights, but a lot of people don't know what their rights are not even aware. They need to be articulated so that they understand it. Now, all of that he knew, and not only did he know, but he wanted to educate people about that. Indian Constitution is designed in that fashion.
You know, Mooknayak in Marathi, there's a whole lot of connotations to that word. मैं उनकी आवाज़ बन सकता हूँ is what Mooknayak is all about. Ambedkar had constantly in his mind, and he actually created avenues to hear people, and Mooknayak is one of them.
All changemakers face roadblocks, as Ambedkar set out to make sure that the Constitution speaks for the silent. Ambedkar too faced resistance and reticence from his colleagues. Ambedkar was like a bitter dose that worked to cure years of bias and prejudice that had piled up in the Indian ecosystem. He made a frontal attack on the caste system in his first draft of laws. This rattled even senior and seasoned leaders, but they were unable to sway Ambedkar from his quest.
Ambedkar was not playing politics. You know, he was being absolutely straight. He was not playing the game of politics here, which is why it comes through with such force. Centuries upon centuries where you put a community down and you trample them underfoot. So what is the compensation you're talking about? And in a democratic country, their right is as much as anybody else's.
And if his colleagues tried harder, Ambedkar was ready with his dreaded resignation letter. This interaction between Sardar Patel, the first Home Minister of India, and Ambedkar, the first Law Minister of India, speaks for itself.
मुंशी जी की बातों से आप नाराज हो गए भीमराव?
लेकिन वो तो आपकी बात लेकर आए थे मेरे पास। इसीलिए मैंने कहा कि मैं ही ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी से हट जाता हूं।
आप तो जानते हैं, कांग्रेस क्या, पूरे भारत में दूसरा और कोई है ही नहीं जो हमारे संविधान को आकार दे सके। खुद बापू भी यही कहा करते
लेकिन
थे।
आप उनकी बात मानते कहाँ हैं पटेल जी? गांधी जी पिछड़ों को रिजर्वेशन देने की मेरी तजवीज से सहमत थे। अरे एक बार हमें अपने बराबर आने का मौका तो दीजिए पटेल जी, फिर देखिए कैसे हम आगे निकल जाते हैं। और यह काम बिना आरक्षण के नहीं होगा। अगर फिर भी मेरी बातें आपको जहरीली लग रही हैं तो मैंने अपना इस्तीफा तैयार रखा है, आप खुद लेते जाइएगा।
मैं बड़ा जिद्दी आदमी हूं अंबेडकर जी, लेकिन मूर्ख नहीं हूं, किसान हूं। देखकर ही बता सकता हूं कि कौन सा बीज कल मुझे अच्छी फसल देगा।
That scene is key. The all-inclusiveness of those leaders is something which is extremely powerful and endearing. Every time, like I said, they started the discussion, it is my country and then my people. It was never the other way around. It was never only my people. Unless and until they all come together, they would have never created this document. It's impossible.
Today, Ambedkar is loved or hated and mistakenly remembered largely for introducing reservation quotas in education and jobs. But in fact, Ambedkar was a great believer in merit and had suggested reservation only for a period of first 10 years.
Reservation he demanded was until they would be equal to the others, meaning in terms of opportunities. If the opportunities given to them would be equal to others, that's when reservations must stop. That was his view, and that's how it should have been. But today we don't think of reservation as a means to equalize the community. You know, you offer equal opportunities to all. We think of them as loaves and fishes to be given to people. What should have been something that evolves itself, develops into equality for all, has now become little bribes that you give to communities. No, which is silly. You know, I mean, that's not how it was meant to be. The whole thing has become perverse. He was thinking in terms of an egalitarian society. He was not using this as loaves and fishes to bribe people.
Floundering in the darkness of Dalit discrimination, Ambedkar's belief in merit was like a torchlight for his followers. Sumit Samos was born in a small village in the tribal district of Koraput in Odisha. Ambedkar helped Sumit not only to become an articulate ambassador for Dalit rights, but also a youth icon who voices his messages packaged within rap songs.
Yeah, Dalit boy. जन्म लिया मैंने जब से तब से धब्बा गुनहगार लगा मुझ पे फट से पूछता सवाल मैं तुझसे क्यों हजार जाते हैं इतने सारे सालों से गुलामों के बाजार में तू कहता हम आजाद हैं इंसानों की झुंड में क्यों ऊपर नीचे भाग है इंसानों की झुंड में क्यों ऊपर नीचे भाग है जवाब तेरे पास पर करेगा नहीं कुछ भी क्योंकि असली गुनहगार है मेरी जीने की वजह जो है वो दिखता तेरे गालियों में आधी रात आजादी तेरी छप्पर फूकती बस्तियों में आधी रात आजादी तेरी छप्पर फूकती बस्तियों में
The basis of my rap is Ambedkar. You know, I'm just paraphrasing Ambedkar in different ways in whatever I sing. The ideas that I use in my songs are mostly based on Ambedkar, and Ambedkar is someone who brings out a lot of mixed, a lot of emotions, especially for the Dalits of this country, who look up to him as someone who has given them a new lease of life.
बता दो हमें अगर बचा है कुछ और क्या क्या देखे बस इतना ही कहूँगा मर के भी जीना है हम लड़ाई सीख ले बता दो हमें अगर बचा है कुछ और क्या क्या देखे बस इतना ही कहूँगा मर के भी जीना है हम लड़ाई सीख ले मर के भी जीना है हम लड़ाई सीख ले मेरे काले रंग के आगे तेरे गोरे चमड़े फीके हैं दुश्मनों से लड़ना कैसे पुरखों से हम सीखे मेरे रास्ते सारे खास है अपने सारे पास में अस्तित्व के वास्ते मिटा दे सारे दूरियां घटा दे सारे फासले मिटा दे सारे दूरियां घटा दे सारे फासले सासले.
Before Ambedkar, the state of Dalits, if I may talk about, the forms of caste discrimination, let's say untouchability or segregation of houses or let's say accessibility to public spaces, accessibility to drinking water, and all of these were practiced in its most brutal forms. What Ambedkar did was, Ambedkar gave a consciousness, Ambedkar gave that consciousness that you have to fight against it.
So strong was Ambedkar's belief in education as a means to rid discrimination that he asked the Dalit community to focus single-mindedly on getting schooled.
He provided us with means, and that means the first thing is education, and he also told Dalits that education is a weapon. With education you can transform the society. So that's where the famous slogan comes, educate, agitate, organize. He says education is like the milk of the tigress. You know, you'll roar, that will make you conscious, you'll get angry, that will open your eyes to what is happening. Ambedkar has sparked some kind of ignition among the youths. It has so much of relevance for the students who come from marginalized sections. Let's say from Orissa, more than 60-70 people have come to university, 60-70 people who are doing PhD from South and Western Orissa, which is one of the most backward regions in India, and it is all because of Ambedkar, of that one line, okay, educate, agitate and organize.
ଏତେ ଦିନ ହେଲା ମୁଁ କିଛି କହୁନଥିଲି, ବହୁତ ଚୁପଚାପ ଥିଲି, କିନ୍ତୁ ତା ମାନେ ନୁହଁ କି ମୁଁ କିଛି କହିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁନଥିଲି। ଏତେ ଦିନ ହେଲା ମୁଁ କିଛି କହୁନଥିଲି, ବହୁତ ଚୁପଚାପ ଥିଲି, କିନ୍ତୁ ତା ମାନେ ନୁହଁ କି ମୁଁ କିଛି କହିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁନଥିଲି। ଗୋଟେ ବର୍ଷ ହେଲା ଇଂଲିଶ ହିନ୍ଦୀ ରାପ୍ କରିବା ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କଲି, ସିନ୍ରେ ଥିଲି ନୂଆ କିନ୍ତୁ କାଷ୍ଟ ଉପରେ ଡିସ୍କସନଟା ସ୍ପାର୍କ କଲି। ଗୋଟେ ବର୍ଷ ହେଲା ଇଂଲିଶ ହିନ୍ଦୀ ରାପ୍ କରିବା ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କଲି, ସିନ୍ରେ ଥିଲି ନୂଆ କିନ୍ତୁ କାଷ୍ଟ ଉପରେ ଡିସ୍କସନଟା ସ୍ପାର୍କ କଲି। ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ମୋର ବଡ଼, ସପରିଚିତ ମୋର ଛୋଟ, ଦୃଢ଼ ମୋର ଇଚ୍ଛା ସକି ଥମ୍ବ ନାଇଁ ଗଡ଼। ଲିରିକ୍ସ ଲେଖେ ସାମ୍ନାରେ ଆମ୍ବେଦକରର ଫଟୋ, ତୁଇ 24 କ୍ୟାରେଟ୍ ଗୋଲ୍ଡ, ମୁଇଁ କୋରାପୁଟିଆ ଖାଣ୍ଟି କହିଲା କଡ଼କ। लिरिक्स लेके सामने रे आंबेडकर फोटो, तुई 24 कैरेट गोल्ड, मुई कोरापुटिया खांडी कोइला कड़क। तू 24 कैरेट गोल्ड, मुई कोरापुटिया खांडी कोइला कड़क।
I think Ambedkar is a global thought leader because you see, let's say, like I take inspiration from Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, and they spoke against some kind of a segregation in the society. They spoke against a division in the society, which Ambedkar speaks. In that sense, I would put Ambedkar even in a higher pedestal. Ambedkar's message, it's for billion, like 1.2 billion of Indians, and you not only have caste in India, now you have caste in Pakistan, you have in Bangladesh. So I think he would be at the topmost global thought leaders.
In a quest to create an equitable and just system, India had not one, but two thought leaders, Ambedkar and Gandhi. From the day India began its freedom struggle to the day when it became independent, till now, Gandhi had laid the ground rules.
Bapuji, from today, a new government of us Indians is taking charge. What will be your advice to us?
Be humble. Beware of power. Power corrupts. Do not let yourselves be trapped by pomp and pageantry. Remember, you are in office to serve the poor in India's villages. सबको सन्मति दे भगवान.
Right after independence, when it came to the question of making laws about electoral system, Gandhi and Ambedkar had a fiery clash. Ambedkar wanted a separate electorate for the depressed classes, but Gandhi refused to divide the Indian society on caste basis and went on a fast unto death to protest against Ambedkar's suggestion.
आप अपनी जिद छोड़ क्यों नहीं देते गांधी जी? अगर आपको कुछ हो गया तो आपके शिष्य मुझे बेकार में इल्जाम देंगे.
आमरण अनशन करने का फैसला मेरा अपना है, और अगर मुझे कुछ हो गया तो उसके लिए कोई और नहीं, सिर्फ मैं जिम्मेदार होऊंगा. पर अगर हरिजनों और बाकी हिंदुओं का बंटवारा हो गया तो उसके लिए जिम्मेदार आप होंगे, अंबेडकर जी.
हिंदू और हरिजन एक थे ही कब, जो अब आप उनमें बंटवारे की बात कर रहे हैं?
आप सही कह रहे हैं। हिंदू संप्रदाय ने हरिजनों को सदियों से अछूत बना के रखा है, पर अब जब मौका आया है कि राजनीतिक रूप से दोनों साथ साथ आ सकें, तो आप क्यों हरिजनों के लिए अलग चुनावी व्यवस्था की मांग कर रहे हैं?
गांधी जी, एक दिन वोटिंग बूथ में 7 वोट डाल देने से हिंदू और हरिजन एक नहीं हो जाएंगे।
पर हरिजन हरिजनों को चुने और सवर्ण सवर्णों को। इस कायदे से तो तुम उन्हें हमेशा के लिए अलग रखने का इंतजाम कर रहे हो। मेरी तजवीज़ ये है कि हम हर बार कुछ ऐसी सीटें तय करें जिनमें हर एक को केवल हरिजन कैंडिडेट ही चुनने होंगे, फिर वो खुद चाहे किसी भी वर्ग वर्ण के क्यों ना हो। और बाकी सीटों पे भी हरिजन को उसी तरह से खड़े रहने का अधिकार होगा जैसे कि किसी भी हिंदुस्तानी को।
मुझे सोचने के लिए थोड़ा वक्त चाहिए होगा गांधी जी।
The dynamics of the scene or chemistry in between them is both trying to understand each other, that they are on the same page or not. Gandhi ji always spoke about Harijan and underprivileged people. I really think they probably had lot of argument, Pune Pact scene in Samvidhan. But Ambedkar, even if he argued, he knew that Gandhiji would understand. When I was doing the scenes, I never felt that I'm against Gandhi or Ambedkar was against Gandhi. Not the actor, but as leaders also. I thought he was an ally more than he wanted to understand more actually.
Gandhi is not no ordinary person. He had a certain kind of moral authority. So did Ambedkar. In many ways, had the same kind of strength, same kind of moral strength. So it was between two extremely honest, well-meaning, and strong human beings. Neither of them was trying to cheat the other. They were standing their own ground, and that's how it was. There was a great deal of respect that they had for each other as well. They were kind of dualists, as it were, at that particular time.
Well, I think all the bitter fights he'd already had, with Gandhiji and so on, and he very unwillingly, and he mentioned it in Parliament, that he had given up for the sake of unity, but he regrets it. He doesn't think it was the right thing he did. But ultimately, I think Gandhiji was right, because in Pakistan they have separate electorates, and it hasn't worked at all well for the minorities there. Yeah.
Ambedkar may have won or lost many small skirmishes, but in securing the legal rights of backward classes in the Constitution and in locking the barn doors against prejudice and discrimination, Ambedkar made a historic contribution to India and all its citizens.
What is the use of fundamental rights to the untouchables in India? The idea of making a gift of fundamental rights to every individual is no doubt very laudable. The question is how to make them effective. Social conscience is the only safeguard of all rights, fundamental or non-fundamental.
For the society, you're just a lowly, dirty, filthy human being. So the society never recognized you as a human, but through his provisions, the state can put pressure on the society to recognize these groups of people who are still forcefully involved in degraded occupations, manual scavenging, or skinning the dead cows, or burning the dead bodies. There's these kind of degraded jobs that these people are involved in. In terms of putting protective measures, he has given these provisions, through the constitution, which would protect the Dalits. Prohibition of untouchability And in Article 14, 15, 16, 17, he speaks about, you cannot be discriminated on the basis of caste, sex, religion. Then he's speaking about, in a directive principle of state policy, he's asking the government to take special care of the marginalized, SC, ST, both. Ambedkar is giving state the upper hand to somehow challenge the inequality that exists in the society. And I think that is what has changed after Ambedkar, which was not there before Ambedkar.
Provision in the constitution given by Baba Sahib for the oppressed representation. This ain't your charity, no poverty elevation. Academics, media, bureaucracy, justice system, private sector politics, cinema and journalism. Bunch of few top class, iron overpopulation. We build your houses, we till your lands, we produce your foods, we the artisans. It's our sweat and blood, so here you're nothing plants.
Mooknayak was not just the name of a journal that Ambedkar published in order to convey his ideas on empowerment. Mooknayak, a man who strives and speaks for the silent, was the central theme of his life. Ambedkar was way ahead of his times and tried his best to bring about internal reform in laws around rights of women. He drafted the Hindu Code Bill that tried to bring in equal rights for women in inheritance, maintenance, divorce and remarriage.
Mada mada gama gama gasa, mada mada gama gama gasa, mada mada gama gama gasa, mada mada gama gama gasa. Gaga gama mada da da ni ni za, gaga ni 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 da 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 ni ni za, gaga gama mada da da ni ni za. उम्मीदों की मशाल जलाए, अंधेरे को रौंदते जाए, अंधेरे को रौंदते जाए। जो लब खुलने लगे हैं, बात जुबां तक आ पहुंची है। लब खुलने लगे हैं, बात ज़ुबां तक आ पहुंची है। ठान ले दिल में रुकना नहीं है, बढ़ते रहना थकना नहीं है। ठान ले दिल में रुकना नहीं है, बढ़ते रहना थकना नहीं है। नोच ले बढ़कर सब तारों को, नोच ले बढ़कर सब तारों को, जिन तक तेरी पहुंच नहीं है।
Way ahead of his times, he strongly fought for reforms in women-related laws and even resigned from his cabinet post as law minister when he was not able to persuade the Indian Parliament to accept what may have seemed revolutionary ideas to lawmakers of that time.
The women's issue is why he left the government, because the Hindu Code Bill, he wanted all the pro-women aspects to come in, which the reactionaries were not willing to admit. But the women were very supportive and they all wanted, especially Rajkumari Amrit Kaur.
शादी औरत और मर्द दोनों की हामी से हो और वैवाहिक जीवन में दोनों का समान हक और बराबर की मर्जी हो। ये नुक्ता फंडामेंटल राइट्स में आना चाहिए।
आना तो चाहिए, पर मर्द मानेंगे कहाँ? गांधी जी ने तो अपनी प्रार्थना सभा में ये तक कहा था कि मुख्तलिफ मज़हबों और फ़िरक़ों के लोगों के बीच शादियाँ होना अच्छा ही नहीं, ज़रूरी भी है।
हमें भी अपने आइन में ये बात कह देनी चाहिए कि धर्म दो लोगों की शादी के बीच किसी तरह का अड़ंगा नहीं डाल सकता।
बिल्कुल। और अगर ये बात संविधान में शामिल हो गई तो अब तक चला आ रहा ये पुराना कानून असंवैधानिक अल्ट्रावायरस करार दे दिया जाएगा।
मैं कमेटी को फौरन एक चिट्ठी लिख देती हूँ, फिर देखते हैं तुम्हारे और मेरे अलावा कौन इस मामले में हमारा साथ देता है।
मर्द तो शायद ही कोई साथ दे हमारा।
Ambedkar was a very modern man. He was a very contemporary, modern human being. He started in politics as a leader of his particular community, but he outgrew that. Otherwise, he would never have been able to write the Indian Constitution. He wouldn't have been able to conceive it. His point of view would have been related to the situation from which he came as a member of the Dalit community. But he rose above all of that. He transcended the caste system of the country. Now this, who would do that? Only somebody who had educated himself, who had become a very contemporary, modern world citizen. The classic quality of Ambedkar.
He wanted a right to marriage as a fundamental right. It's still not there. But this is what he had wanted. And he, in fact, even wanted illegitimate children to have rights on property, which was not given in the Constitution.
Let me go further while on the topic of children. I propose that there should be no difference between legitimate and illegitimate children as far as laws of inheritance are concerned.
पर इस तरह क्या हम शादी जैसी संस्था पर ही प्रश्न चिन्ह नहीं लगा देंगे?
For that matter, all the personal laws are not in our purview here.
Here, we are not interfering with anyone's personal law. This is about children and their rights. And you, Diwan Sahab, are a learned man. And you know what Shakespeare says about this question of legitimate and illegitimate.
अब शेक्सपियर का जवाब देना थोड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है, तो एक काम करते हैं, इस विषय पे वोट कर लेते हैं. Those in favor of Dr. Ambedkar's proposal, please raise your hands. छह विपक्ष में, केवल 3 पक्ष में. क्या कर सकते हैं अम्बेडकर जी? कभी जीत, कभी हार. And we must practice what we preach. ये एक जनतंत्र है आखिरकार.
The main thing about Ambedkar was that he stood for his principles and he kept his principles above any kind of pragmatic requirement. That is something that makes him stand way above a large number of people. He didn't play politics with his principles.
He was probably more forward thinking than the contemporary leaders we have. I mean, 65 years ago, whatever in the women's bill we have discussed so many things, which is from Hindu Code Bill to all-inclusiveness of women, which we are still struggling for, is, I think, ahead of time. And a great respect for women. I mean, it would only come out of that.
Ginny Mahi, a new voice of Dalit pop in the country, is a YouTube sensation with close to 100,000 followers. Quoting freely from Ambedkar's speeches, Ginny's songs talk of a place where the sun shines equally for all.
क्योंकि डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर जी एक आइकॉन ही ऐसे हैं, एक लेजेंड ही ऐसे हैं, उनका नाम सुनते ही दिल में एक बहुत बड़ा जज्बा पैदा होता है. मेरे हर एक सॉन्ग में कोई ना कोई मोटिव होता है. मतलब उस सॉन्ग के थ्रू मैं कुछ ना कुछ बाबा साहेब जी के बारे में बताना चाहती हूँ. जैसे मेरा एक सॉन्ग थोड़े टाइम पहले ही मेरा एक सॉन्ग आया था बाबा साहेब जी, उसकी कुछ लाइनें हैं. हर किसी की हम गुलामी करते ही रहते, जुल्मों को सह लेते मगर हम कुछ भी ना कहते, सर उठाकर हम कहीं भी आते जाते ना, अगर भी मुझे इस दुनिया में आते ना. सो इससे मेरे हिसाब से पूरा एक्सप्लेन हो रहा है, स्पष्ट हो रहा है. अगर आज मैं भी कुछ कर पा रही हूँ या देश की हर नारी कुछ कर पा रही है, अपनी फील्ड में कुछ भी कर रही है, सो ये देन है डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर बाबा साहिब जी की. मधुमक्खियां दे वांगू इकट्ठे हो जवो, फेर सकदा नहीं सानू कोई छेड़, ओ फेर सकदा नहीं सानू कोई छेड़.
Identity and empowerment are integral ideas behind Ginny's lyrics and music. Most of these are shaped by Ambedkar's thought and his work. She says very few people know that it was Ambedkar who set out key labor laws detailing rights of employees and critical issues like 8-hour work shift, medical leave, minimum wages, and equal pay for equal work.
तो पहले के समय में ऐसा होता था कि पुरुष काम कर सकते थे और औरतें काम नहीं कर सकती थी. लेकिन जब लेडीज़ ने भी काम करना शुरू किया, जेंट्स ने भी काम करना शुरू किया, तो उसमें भी थोड़ा होता था कि पुरुषों को ज़्यादा पैसा दे देते थे और थोड़ा उनको लेडीज़ को कम मिलती थी, लेकिन इस चीज़ को भी डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर जी ने ख़त्म किया और इसीलिए उन्होंने ये बात कही कि इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क। पहले के टाइम की बात करें और अब के टाइम की बात करें तो बहुत इम्प्रूवमेंट आई है सिर्फ डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर बाबा साहिब जी की बदौलत।
Fundamental rights are a gift of the law. Only because fundamental rights are the gift of the state, it does not follow that the state cannot qualify those laws.
Look at India at the time. It was largely feudal in its mentality. Now we had to jump from a feudal mentality to a modern mentality, which means in economic terms, we had to grow from what was essentially feudal past the capitalist phase until you come to an egalitarian phase of life, you know. So there's a process. So in that particular process, he'd already seen into the future, you know, he looked into the future to create what is essentially an egalitarian constitution, to recognize everybody's rights as being equal. Now that is something that is quite extraordinary because, you know, if you look at our constitution and compare it with a lot of constitutions of that period, you'll find how remarkable it is.
Article 31 deals with directive principles of state policy. It says, the state shall in particular direct its policy towards securing, 1, that the citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. 2, the ownership and control of the material resources of the community are so distributed as best to subserve the common good. 3, the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and the means of production to the common detriment. 4, that there is equal pay for equal work for both men and women. There are some other items more or less in the same strain. What I would like to ask is this. If these directive principles to which I have drawn attention are not socialistic in their direction and content, I fail to understand, can socialism be any more than this?
Guinea feels her music is a medium to spread this global thought leaders' ideas across the world.
बाबा साहिब जी की बदौलत ही मुझे बहुत सारी कंट्रीज़ में, बहुत सारे स्टेट्स में जाने का मौका मिला। अपनी सिंगिंग के थ्रू उनकी बात, उनकी सोच को आगे लोगों तक पहुंचाने का मौका मिला। आज तक मेरा हर एक सॉन्ग है वो बाबा साहिब जी को समर्पित ही रहा है।
हर किसी के हम गुलामी करते ही रहते, जुल्म को सह लेते मगर कुछ भी ना कहते, सर उठा कर हम कहीं भी आते जाते ना, सर उठा कर हम कहीं भी आते जाते ना, अगर भीम जी इस दुनिया में आते ना, बाबा साहिब जी इस दुनिया में आते ना, दुनिया में आते ना।
और मैं आज तक अगर बाबा साहिब जी के बारे में उनको समर्पित अपने सॉन्ग्स सिंग कर रही हूँ तो इसीलिए ताकि लोगों तक मैं उनकी आइडियोलॉजी को पहुँचा सकूँ और मैं बता सकूँ कि बाबा साहिब जी ने हमारे लिए क्या कुछ किया है। सो मैं उनकी सोच को आगे लेकर जाना चाहती हूँ, कोशिश कर रही हूँ और आगे भी हमेशा करती रहूँगी। और हर एक नारी को ये अलर्ट करना चाहती हूँ कि आप सब अलर्ट रहिए अपने फ्यूचर के लिए। जितना हो सकेगा मैं अपने म्यूज़िक के थ्रू ही अपने मैसेजेस जो भी मैं कन्वे करना चाहती हूँ लोगों को, डॉक्टर बी आर अम्बेडकर जी के बारे में बताना चाहती हूँ, वो मैं हमेशा कंटिन्यू रखूँगी और हमेशा बताती रहूँगी, कोशिश करती रहूँगी, क्योंकि कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती।
Many young artists across India are investing their creative energies in spreading the seeds sown by Dr. Ambedkar. Artists like Mari Selvaraj, Ravi Kumar Anand, Meena Kandasamy, Sukirtarani and Palanimuthu Sivakami from Tamil Nadu, Aravind Malagatti, Siddhalingayya, Chandrasekhar Bhandari, Kotiganahalli Ramayya from Karnataka, Aruna Gokulamanda, Gogu Shamala, Jupaka Shubhadra from Telangana, Dr. C.S. Chandrika, Vijala Chirappad from Kerala have been taking the thoughts of Dr. Ambedkar to farthest corners of India. In a time when it's difficult to get endorsement from young millennials, Dr. Ambedkar is a figure that is invoking renewed admiration and adulation. During his lifetime and even many years after India's independence, the contributions of Dr. Ambedkar did not get the spotlight they deserved. Now in recent years, Government of India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi has paid unique homage to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
बाबा साहब का राष्ट्र निर्माण में जो योगदान है, उस वजह से हम सभी बाबा साहब के ऋणी हैं। हमारी सरकार का ये प्रयास है कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों तक उनके विचार पहुंचे, विशेषकर युवा पीढ़ी उनके बारे में जाने, उनका अध्ययन करे और इसलिए इस सरकार में बाबा साहब के जीवन से जुड़े महत्वपूर्ण स्थलों को तीर्थ के रूप में विकसित किया जा रहा है। जय भीम, जय भीम।
Creating 5 memorials or Panchatirth in memory of his tremendous contribution. The present government has put a spotlight on Dr. Ambedkar's life and his ideas. Bhima Janma Bhoomi Memorial in Madhya Pradesh pays respect to the place where he was born. Ambedkar Shiksha Bhoomi Memorial in London salutes the places where he as a student honed his ideas of an equitable polity. Diksha Bhoomi Memorial in Nagpur pays respect to the place where he launched social reforms. Mahaparinirvana Memorial in Delhi, where Dr. Ambedkar died, and Chaitya Bhoomi Memorial in Mumbai, where he was cremated, have become venerated spots to revisit Dr. Ambedkar's enlightened writing and exemplary life.